This is the Angels Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Los Angeles Angels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
So frustrating, man. We're right there. Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast. Coming at you live, as always, after every single Angels game, right here live on the Locked On Angels YouTube channel, and after the fact, both on the channel and wherever you get the Locked On Angels audio podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, what's going on, everybody? My name is Gavin Carlson. Gavin Coin Flip Carlson. You already know that's going to be said plenty tonight. A former credentialed journalist in the LA area, spent 4 years covering UCLA sports with the Daily Bruin, and now in year 2 with the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Our team is the Angels, and certainly the vibes are not good in the chat today. I already can tell the familiar faces are here. Shout out to all of you as always, but a coin to flip loss indeed as the Angels fall 3-2. They've now lost back-to-back games to open up this series in New York against the Mets. Another lead loss. That's the main headline. Obviously, you had the epic collapse last night where you're up 5-2 and you really gift the Mets a comeback win. Well, today you lose the lead a little bit earlier and a little bit less of a lead, but still 2-0 going into the bottom of the 5th inning. A 3-run fifth from the Mets made it 3-2, and then no runs the rest of the ball game. It's crazy. The Mets have 5 hits. They score 3 runs. The Angels have 11 hits and scored just 2 runs. We had as many errors as runs. That is frustrating. But obviously a missed opportunity. You look at this and you go, you lose by, you collapse last night, a game you should have won. You blow another game here where it's a 50-50 game, and you're just looking and you're like, man, this team is close, right? It's not, again, and I know some people were not happy with what I was saying yesterday, but it's not crazy to say this team is a couple more positive breaks away from, winning every single game on this road trip, right? That's not a crazy thing to say, but again, we're reminded yesterday and we're reminded again today that this team is still not an above average baseball team. And it starts with what happens in the top of the 5th. Ironically, the Angels score a run in that inning, but it felt like that could have been a lot more going into the bottom of the 5th, and that's where we start today's show.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Now, some other outlets, they might just jump straight to the bottom of the 5th inning and say, of course, the Mets score all 3 runs there. That's the difference. But we here in this, this postcast environment, the chat, you guys are all smarter than that. You know that this game really changed in the top of the 5th inning, right? The Angels do score a run, right? It starts with a 1-out double from Luis Rengifo, then a Zach Neto walk, and then Nolan Schanuel rips an RBI double. It scores Rengifo. Zach Neto goes to third. Schanuel with an unbelievable performance in this game. We will get to that. Ohapi was great tonight as well, but Schanuel scores Rengifo, pushes Neto to third. He's on second and third with 1 out. And how many times have we complained, have I lost my mind, blown a gasket about the Angels' inability to score consistently with a runner on third base and less than 2 outs? It's arguably our biggest flaw, that if we just fix that, if we were an average baseball team in these situations, we might already be above 500, right? Come on. It's so simple. And I know I rant the most about it with the Manfred men on second. If you get him to third with 1 out, it should be easy. But the problem is, even in the situations where we did get him to third, we never scored him. And in non-Manfred man situations, just in situations like this, we can't score the guy from third with less than 2 outs. We can't do it. And so Halo J's in here saying the biggest flaw is leaving the bases loaded, but what is a more likely run situation? Bases loaded, 2 outs, or second and third, 1 out? It's second and third, 1 out 11 times out of 10. So I hear you, Halo J. It's frustrating that in this inning, another example of when the Angels could not score with the bases loaded, but that wasn't, obviously that's the opportunity that gets the biggest shine. The bases were juiced, but no. It was 2 at-bats before. And I'm sorry, I hate I have to be honest here. It's Mike freaking Trout who does not come through. And ironically, I have here, don't have that Trout talk tonight because I know some people are going to bring up what happened in the 9th inning with him popping up with 2 outs to, ultimately lose the game. I don't want to talk about that conversation about him in the 9th inning, but man, this is a frustrating at-bat from Mike Trout. There's no other way to put it. This really could have been a knockout blow, and I get it. It's not fair maybe to expect Mike Trout to always turn this in to a 2 RBI single, right? And again, the guy's been playing really good baseball. Let's not forget, he did have what could have been an RBI swing in the 1st inning. If Schanuel's a little bit faster, or if that throw from Soto is a little less perfect, and certainly Soto is known for having little less perfect throws than that occasionally, right? If either of those things goes our way, Mike Trout has an RBI single in the 1st inning. Maybe the Angels win the ball game, but at the very least, you can be less critical of Trout with runners in scoring position because he would have already come through in the 1st, right? Baseball is a game of inches. It's a game of milliseconds, right? So it's crazy. But the moral of the story is he unfortunately didn't get the RBI there. And then this is a situation where I don't need you to be a hero. I don't need you to have a 2 RBI double or just a 2 RBI single or a 3-run home run, right? Just get a sac fly, just hit weak contact, at least have a weak ground ball to the right side and make it a bang-bang play at home, like it was in the 1st inning, right? Right? But man, oh man, Mike Trout in this at-bat gets 3 heaters right down the middle. Right down the middle. A sinker right down the middle that he fouls off. A 4-seam fastball right down the middle again that he fouls off. He takes a sinker inside, good take. And then the 1-2 is another fastball right down the middle. All 4 of these pitches, 94 miles an hour. None of them 98 or anything like that. They're right there. And I get it. For you to not hit a home run or even an RBI single, you would love to see that with your 3-hole hitter with fastballs right down the middle. But man, at the very least, you got to have a sac fly there. You got to make contact of some sort, right? And yes, TJ, you're absolutely right to say Trout has a good average with runners in scoring position. But the problem is the times where he doesn't get a base hit like this, we don't need him to get a base hit here. At least just make contact. To swing through a fastball right down the middle, to foul tip 2 fastballs right down the middle on this at bat, man, it hurts. Man, it hurts. So you don't have a productive out there. You should have scored a run. Then Taylor Ward takes a walk to load the bases. Got to give Taylor Ward his credit. I know it wasn't the best game for him, but he did take a walk there, a full count, a good at-bat. And unfortunately, Jo Adell just missed, and I mean just missed a grand slam the next at-bat. Jo Adell hits it 389 feet. He hits it 105.8 off the bat. If that ball was a little bit more down the left field line or the right field line, it's easily a home run. If that ball is launched a little bit higher, it's probably a moonshot. But unfortunately, it is a loud line out instead of a grand slam. And despite 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, the Angels don't add any runs. And this has been the difference between the Angels in other games that they win and games like this that they lose. It's turning an inning where you got 1 run and you could be satisfied. No. The great teams blow the inning open, right? And they at least make it a 2-run, maybe a 3-run, maybe a 4-run inning when you have the opportunity that we had. But unfortunately, Trout blows it, 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. He doesn't even make contact. And then Jo Adell just misses a grand slam. That set up the turning point. That really was the turning point, because then what happened after that? The Mets take a 0-2 deficit and with 2 outs and the base is empty, turn it into 3 runs in the game-winning inning, right? 2 outs. Hendricks is so close to having 5 stellar, near-perfect innings. He only gave up 1 base hit. 1 base hit in this game up until the 5th inning, and it wasn't a base hit. It was the picture on the thumbnail of a ball that should have been an easy pop-out that landed because of clown show in the field, unfortunately, from Jo Adell and Luis Rengifo, specifically Jo Adell. He had a great play in this game. He had that play, which was frustrating. And also, I will say, this 2-out RBI single from Brandon Nimmo in this inning, I don't know, maybe I'm a little too critical, But I really do think there was an opportunity for Jo Adell to have a decent shot at that if he actually went for it. We'll get to that in a second, but the moral of the story is Kyle Hendricks was absolutely dealing, absolutely cruising against a really good freaking Mets lineup. And so I don't want any criticism of Kyle Hendricks. This guy is 100 years old. He's at the back end of the rotation, and he gives you 5 scoreless innings, dang near 4 2/3 scoreless innings, gets it to 2 outs. And even with what happens in this 5th inning of him giving up 3 runs, it's still a decent outing against a good Mets lineup, right? It still is not terrible. Unfortunately, though, with 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th, Brett Baty, who's had a great series already, he rips a double. Then Francisco Alvarez just comes back from the minors. He's had an interesting season, and he gets his first home run at Citi Field. He crushed one. It didn't go very far, but it looked impressive, and it tied the game at 2, a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run home run from Francisco Alvarez. Again, think about it. Jo Adell is a mere feet away from a grand slam that would have put this game away, would have been an easy win. It doesn't work out. And then Kyle Hendricks is 1 strike away from 5 scoreless innings, but instead a 2-2 pitch is just a meatball. It's a fastball. It's 87 miles an hour. It's right down the middle. And Alvarez does what a professional hitter should do with an 87-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle. Again, Mike Trout couldn't do it, unfortunately. And that's crush it. Crush it for a 2-run home run. That tied the game at 2. And again, what do elite teams do in innings like this? They turn solid innings into bigger innings. The same way the Angels could only score 1 in the top of the 1st, instead of exploding for 2 or 3 or more, the Mets could have easily taken that 2-run home run from Alvarez and said, hey, successful inning, maybe Hendricks gets through it. Then maybe Hendricks pitches in the 6th inning, right? It's a completely different ballgame. But instead, they keep going. While the fans are still cheering, Mauricio takes a first pitch, change up for a base hit. Then he steals second. And again, these darn stolen bases. Yesterday, a stolen base made it a 2 RBI single from Soto instead of a 1 RBI single. Today, that stolen base from Mauricio, horrible job by Hendricks there. Great jump. It was way too easy. Sets up an RBI chance for Brandon Nimmo. And this is where, again, I'm going to be a little critical of Jo Adell, in this play, because Nimmo has a line drive to center, and I get it. It looks like that ball was hit a little bit softer than it was. It looked like it was just going to be a blooper that was going to land clearly in front of Adell. But if you watch this play closely, that ball floats up long enough, and Adell gives up on it pretty early. I think if he is still running full speed at the ball the entire play, I think he gets there. And I get it. It's difficult because if you run full speed and then the ball lands at your feet, it gets past you. But with the game tied with 2 outs, I would rather you sprint as hard as you can at the ball and maybe have a play. I don't think he would have had to dive. Call me crazy. I don't even think he would have had to dive. If he genuinely was running full speed the whole way, I think he would have caught that ball. You guys let me know what you think, but I think he would have caught that ball. He doesn't catch the ball. It ends up being another 2-out RBI. It's a 3-run inning, and then Brogdon comes in from Hendricks, and that was the difference. So we're going to take our break here. I know everyone's still talking. Everyone in the chat is just talking about the Trout at bat. I get it. Fastballs down the middle. We've got people pulling out very interesting stats. TJ every day saying Mike Trout sitting 143 in high leverage situations. That's frustrating. Again, Halo J says we should move him back to the 5 spot. I don't know. I still think he's been playing too well to do that. He's still having great at-bats. Would love him to look a little more aggressive and stop looking like he's searching for a walk every time he comes up, but he has been having good at-bats. The OPS is still very good as of late. TJ also saying, come on now. That's why you're saying our defense is our biggest weakness because of that play that Adell didn't make. I get it. But at the same time, Adell did make a great play. Wow. Not good stats there in terms of Jo Adell. And then real quick, Dave is saying, why can't we coach Rengifo to bunt? I totally agree. Luis Rengifo, when you're not a power guy, when you're a contact hitter, I'm sorry, maybe I'm being stereotypical or whatever you want to say, but when you are a contact hitter, you should also be able to bunt. You should also be able to bunt. And it's very interesting that he went to bunt, takes what was called a ball, but was a strike. Then the next pitch was a fastball right down the middle, would have been a perfect bunt pitch, and he's not bunting. So interesting there. That being said, in the 9th inning, and we'll quickly take the break after this, but in the 9th inning, you had Stanek instead of Edwin Diaz, a great opportunity. You have Rengifo, who's 3 for 7 against Stanek in his career, and Mike Trout, who's 3 for 7 against Stanek in his career, with a couple home runs, by the way, and neither of them get a base hit. It's baseball. I get it. Most times you're not going to get a hit, but to have two guys there that have decent ownage against Stanek and for neither of them to come through, it's frustrating to say the least. But we're going to take our break. When we come back, there are some positives. Logan O'Hoppe looks to be back. Nolan Schanuel continues to prove he's a stud. And we'll talk about if the Angels can at least steal one in New York tomorrow. We'll do all of that after a break here on another losing edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, on this Tuesday show, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel whenever I'm out of California to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back here live on 2 consecutive losing editions of the Locked On Angels Postcast. Angels, another lead, lost. They're up 2-0 going into the bottom of the 5th. It should have been 3-0, maybe even 4-0. Unfortunately, Mike Trout, as much as I love to defend him, maybe more than some of you guys, he didn't come through. He did not come through. And it stayed 2-0, and then the Mets took big-time advantage in the bottom of the 5th with 3 runs, a 2-run shot from Francisco Alvarez, and then a 2-out single from Brandon Nimmo, where, in my opinion, I thought Jo Adell could have made a play. Maybe I'm being a little too hard on him. He did also have a fantastic play earlier in this ball game, but he also had a bonehead play earlier in the ball game where he called off Luis Rengifo on a pop-up and then didn't make the catch. Despite that, there were some positives in today's game, and again, I'm not someone who's just going to be a homer and only talk about the positive spin on things when we lose. But let's be honest, this is a game you lose by 1 run against a really good team, and there were still some encouraging things. Another 11 hits from the Angels today, and a huge part of that, basically almost half of them, coming from Nolan Schanuel, over half of them coming from the duo of Schanuel and O'Hoppe. And we'll certainly get to Schanuel a little bit, but I think the bigger story is O'Hoppe, because we know how bad he was going into the All-Star break. I mean, absolutely, positively atrocious. I'm sorry. I love you, Logan, and I think you're still going to be an absolute elite player. I still think you're going to have what is at the end of the season a great season. But he would tell you, we'd all agree, it was a horrible stretch from him. But he looks to have turned things around. If you have missed some of the daily shows lately, they were talking about a somewhat different stance from Logan O'Hoppe coming out of the All-Star break. And boy, it's helping. In his last 7 games, and mind you, we're 5 games into the second half of the season, but in his last 7 games, he's hitting 400. He's got a 500 on base percentage. His slugging percentage is 600. The guy has as many walks as strikeouts, 4 walks to 4 strikeouts. He's got as many runs as strikeouts, 4 runs to 4 strikeouts, 10 hits, including an RBI, including a home run, and yeah, he's been fantastic. So very encouraging. I think we can make this team can go as far as Logan O'Hoppe takes it, because Zach Neto is consistently our best player, our leadoff stud. Nolan Schanuel is consistently reliable at first base, and Taylor Ward's been red hot. Mike Trout's been playing well. Jo Adell is polarizing, but for the most part is playing really well. The guy who can turn this into an above-average season is Logan O'Hoppe if he can catch fire, and he certainly has to start this second half. 3 for 4 today. He was very impressive in terms of his at-bats, hitting the ball hard. Even in the 9th inning, comes in and immediately rips a base hit up the middle, and I get it. He's been really bad behind the plate at times. Didn't get much help from Hendricks in this one in terms of the stolen bases. But moral of the story is he's catching up in the batter's box. And again, feels like this team is a few changes away from being a really good lineup. It really is. If you kept all the pieces together And Moncada just stayed healthy and stayed consistent. Ohapi stayed consistent. I mean, we've got, I forget who it is in here. Yeah, it's TJ again saying when we signed Kyle Tucker in the offseason, it's a great lineup. Hey, I mean, I'm not going to lie. You swap that right field spot with Kyle Tucker. You swap that second base spot with Christian Moore. You keep everyone else there. That is a really good lineup. But moral of the story is Ohapi 3 for 4. You love to see that. And then the player of the game for the Angels, and darn it, I'm going to do it even in a loss because he was that good.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
It's Nolan Schanuel. And not only does the guy go 4 for 5 to leap into the lead in batting average for the Angels at 278, but 2 of them are doubles. And I'm tired now of hearing anything about Schanuel's exit velo, about his ability to get extra base hits. The guy has 19 doubles. Is that correct, actually? I need to check that again. That seems like too many, to be honest. He has been great. He really has been great. I'm going to pull it up here because now I'm a little suspicious here if that is true. Doubles on the season. He had 3 in the month of July so far, 7 in the month of June. So, yes, I guess that's sounding right. Although I don't even know now. I'm losing it here in terms of how many doubles he has. But the moral of the story is he's been really good. Okay, he's been really freaking good. And I looked like I had this wrong here, and I do want to get this right. 5 in the month of April, 4 in the month of May. So that's 9. It says 7 in the month of June. That can't be right because that would be 16 and 3 would be 19. I think that's what I just said. It is what I just said. So I'm going to shut up here and say yes. He has 19 doubles, which is amazing. Someone's saying 278 leading the team in average is tough to see. That's fair. But the moral of the story is the guy is doing it. He's doing it consistently. He's hitting the ball hard. He's getting on base at will. You know, his great speed is, or greatest skill, arguably, is his ability to draw the walk, even more so than getting the base hit. But the moral of the story is this young core, you feel better and better about it each day. And so regardless of whether this team competes and whether they sell well at the deadline or not, the number one thing we are interested in and are seeing is that our young core is good. And we are reminded of that, feel better and better about that with each game that goes by because Neto's elite, Schanuel's elite, Ohapi is suddenly playing well again. Adele has had a breakout, should have been all-star season. And so we're feeling real good about that core. But with all that being said, we're going to wrap this one up. Obviously, really interested to see what happens tomorrow in terms of who will be pitching for the Angels. Unfortunately, we don't know. That's hilarious from Eric saying, is Bremner available tomorrow? That's hilarious. But the moral of the story is who knows what will happen tomorrow. Maybe it's a bullpen game. I know there's been talks of it not being a bullpen game. We'll see. But the moral of the story is you would love to at least steal one. If you can steal one, you still create an opportunity for these series against the Mariners and Rangers to really decide your season if you're buying or selling at the deadline, right? If you lose tomorrow, maybe it doesn't even matter. But certainly you win tomorrow and things are still somewhat interesting. But for now, of course, the big takeaways, one more time, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to summarize the takeaways because I know I'm a yapper. The big takeaways, this was still a decent performance from the Angels. They had 11 hits. Unfortunately, they couldn't convert all of them. It really came down to that second and third and 1 out failed at-bat from Mike Trout. It came down to that bottom of the 5th inning for Kyle Hendricks, a 2-out rally from the Mets. And really that was it. But still encouraged by Schanuel, encouraged by Ohapi, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a Sunday, so there is an opportunity for us to win the game. Dave, that is hilarious. But I'm going to wrap this one up. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Also, don't forget, tomorrow is an early game. We've had back-to-back 4 p.m. games, but tomorrow, a 10-10 first pitch. So I'll see you here around 1 p.m., hopefully after a win. See you guys then. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. And as always, go Angels. Keep your heads up, everybody.